Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing Life with an Ordinary Guy Who Reincarnated into a Total Fantasy Knockout. I'm probably going to shorten that title in the actual title of this review, but yeah, let's just talk about this. So without further ado, let's just begin. So what is the summary of this series? Basically, it's a story about how two guys who are in their 30s to 40s, they're basically the average worker, and they both are really close. They're really good friends. However, one is extremely popular with the ladies, and the other is not, and the one who isn't actually likes women, whereas for some reason the other guy, will go by their names of being Tachibana and Jinguji, that's their names. Jinguji seems to be kind of gay for his best friend, so it's a very funny thing. And while they're out drinking, or after they finish drinking, Tachibana is constantly talking about how he hates how his best friend gets all the girls. He'd rather just reincarnate into another world as the most cute girl there. And it just so happens that just when they're doing that, a goddess shows up being like, "Hey, you both, I'm gonna send you to my world, and I'm gonna grant your wishes along the way to be your best selves." So yeah, they get sent to another world, and Tachibana becomes a total fantasy knockout, being one of, in the show's stated type of story, one of the hottest and cutest girls around. And so, with the two of them now in this position, they kind of just badmouth the goddess. So because she hates how much they're badmouthing her, she places a curse on them to make the two of them fall in love with one another. And they have to go stop whatever demon lord is in that new world, which Tachibana is the same for some reason, except he's stronger now. And they have to go defeat that demon lord before the curse that the goddess puts on them makes them fall in love with each other like crazy. Because they were already starting to fall for each other because of a curse, because she's the goddess of love of some kind, where she is basically saying, "You gotta defeat this demon lord, or else I'm gonna make you two fall in love with one another." So now the two of them go off to try to escape this curse, as well as try to avoid completely falling for one another, despite the fact, it's quite a weird scenario. But anyway, that's all I can really describe without spoiling too much, and I'm sorry if it was very jumbled, but anyway, let's just continue on with this. So what is it that I like and dislike about this series? Oddly enough, I thought the comedy was actually really good. I am not a huge fan of gender benders. I am not a fan, really, of the concept of guys becoming girls or girls becoming guys. It kind of weirds me out, but oddly enough, it actually really worked in this series. I am amazed how much I actually enjoyed it. I only watched a few clips, because when I first heard about it, I was like, it's a gender bender. I don't like those. I'm going to skip this one. But then I saw some clips, and it's actually really funny. It is so enjoyable, and you could tell that there's a reason as to why the gender bending happens. And it's so odd, because I never thought I would find a show that focuses around something I dislike to be as funny and fun as it is. It has a very colorful cast. Not everyone is likable. There's a few characters I generally did not like, but I can't talk about them because that'd be spoiling too much. I can talk about them in the spoiler section, but I really kind of didn't hate anyone, actually. There were a majority of the characters I actually really enjoyed, even if the actual major cast was much smaller than a few others. If I'm being honest, the more this show reminds me of more than anything is probably The Cautious Hero. Not in terms of premise, but in the type of comedy it's trying to tell and the way it's portraying it. It's not gotten serious at all, and it definitely feels like it has those comedic elements. Kind of like how in Cautious Hero, the main character, is overly cautious, will literally burn something to the ground just in case there was a chance of something coming back. And because of that, he's just super overly cautious about it. And because of that, it does kind of remind me of the comedy of this show, where rather than it being always cautious, there's a constant running joke about how because Jinguji and Tachibana are in this world, and Tachibana is literally the prettiest girl in the world there, and because of that fact, it's constantly gotten them into trouble because everyone thinks he's the cutest girl in the world. Which even makes it more awkward, because I can't really tell if this is meant to be a straight relationship or a gay relationship. The whole gender bending thing makes it very confusing. But overall, I thought the comedy was surprisingly good in the series, and it wasn't until the last storyline of this season that I really wasn't that interested. Although it did end pretty curiously. The ending of this show was probably one of the more like interesting things I've seen from an anime like this. And I really can't say I hated too much about it. The only things I can really say is I hate this one character who I'll mention in the spoiler section, who, even from her first appearance, I didn't like her. I really did not like her. And then there's also this character that I wish got more screen time. So, and you win some, you lose some. So, yeah, some spoiler-free thoughts. I had a very good time watching this anime. I am amazed how much of a fun time I had. It wasn't something like some god tier story. It wasn't something that I was like overly obsessed with. It wasn't anything like Tsukimichi or Spirit Chronicles where I enjoyed it so much that even if there was a bad episode, I wouldn't have paid much attention to it. There wasn't any bad episodes per se in this show. It was definitely more of an okay for a majority of them. But when I say I enjoyed them, it's because they're okay. Like, they're not trying to be anything massive. They're definitely just trying to throw in a colorful cast of characters, collecting around the whole thing with Tachibana and Jingunji. And it's just, out of them, they're probably definitely the two that stand out the most as from some of the best characters, which I appreciate because that's what's important. You have to make your main characters the most interesting. And I think they do a really good job with the whole thing with Jingunji and Tachibana. I think it's very funny. And honestly, it's my favorite part of the show. These two interacting with one another, even though they've been friends for years, just me watching them makes me happy. I don't know why. I love watching the two of them like discuss with one another and seem to both enjoy and not enjoy each other's company at the same time. And it gets even more serious in a way in the finale, but I'll talk about that in a bit. So, yeah, why not? Let's just talk about it. So, we're about to enter the spoiler section. Here is a timestamp when the spoiler section will be over. If you have seen the series, I recommend sticking around to hear my thoughts, but if you haven't, I'd recommend skipping to the end, so that way you wouldn't get any spoilers, but whatever. Let's just hop into the spoiler section, let's hop into it, and I'll count down for 5, and we can begin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first to discuss the one character I don't like. The princess, whose name I cannot remember. I cannot remember her name at all. I really didn't like her character. At all. I really found her annoying. Another problem is definitely also the villains. For me, the villains of the series were probably the least memorable part. It was the same thing with Cautious Hero, where I get they're meant to be villains, but I don't care about these villains. The princess and the villains are just some of the most forgettable and kind of frustrating characters in this story. And really the only thing that keeps me interested is the relationship between Jingunji and Tachibana. Because the finale, honestly, it very much surprised me. Because in the finale, rather than it ending with some big epic boss fight with Jingunji just destroying the big giant robot because there's a big giant robot at the end, instead, Tachibana, who is being used as a power source to power the device, takes control of the robot and goes into a frenzy saying how he, or I don't know if I should say she, but he is complaining about how he wants to be praised by Jingunji. He wants to be close to him, not in a romantic way, but he's always been around him and he just wants to be there and get some compliments. He wants to be praised. He wants to be able to do things like his best friend who can basically do anything. And because of that, it's just an interesting finale because it didn't end the way I thought it would. I thought it was just going to end with a big boss final battle where Tachibana breaks out of whatever thing is being used to as a battery, and then after that they just finish off the monsters. But no, it just ends with them talking for the most part. While knockoff Kirito is there. Yes, there's a knockoff Kirito in this who looks so much like Kirito. All he needed was Kirito's voice actor, which I'm really upset they didn't get Kirito's voice actor in this. Unlike the Japanese voice actor, because oh my gosh, he was one of my favorite parts of this show. I cannot explain how much I enjoyed his character. He was probably one of my favorites in the whole show, besides Tachibana and Jingunji. Honestly, he was just so much fun. I am a Sword Art Online fan. I'm not denying that. I like Sword Art Online. It's one of my favorite shows, and I don't care what people say. I like that show. But man, when people make fun of Kirito, it's so funny. I enjoy Kirito as a protagonist, but even I admit he does have his moments where he really shouldn't be as skilled or powerful as he is. So this show definitely made me laugh. Honestly, I love their ripoff Kirito, and I really enjoyed how he wasn't just a full-on side character. He actually had some and developments in the series as well, especially when after Jingunji didn't know how to talk with Tachibana after a big falling out near the end of the season, he talks to him and is like, you know what? Maybe you two should just talk to one another. Come on, it's not that stupid. It's not that simple, dumb. It's very stupid of you to think that that won't work. And honestly, he definitely just has that kind of fun character that I really appreciate, and he definitely made the whole show a lot more fun to watch. Along with the whole comedy about how Tachibana is basically too cute for the world, where every single time he goes to anyone, to any man, they all immediately fall head over heels for him. And it's just so funny that I have laughed off every time that has happened, because unlike some shows where the jokes become so repetitive it's ridiculous, this show manages to kind of stay fresh with the joke, where they'll introduce different scenarios and different ideas that kind of play off that joke, rather than it just being the same repetitive thing with one character doing another thing. And I'm just amazed at how much fun I had while watching. Would I call it the best anime I've ever watched? No, but anyway, back to before. So with Ripoff Kirito, you're right, that's right, I'm not going to call him by his actual name, I'm going to keep calling him Ripoff Kirito. He basically manages to convince Jingunji to actually talk to Tachibana. And thus, rather than it just ending with some big boss fight, it was just Tachibana and Jingunji talking. There was still some battle moments, but it was definitely more about them talking to one another and interacting with each other that made it so much fun. Not fun in the action regard, but just it's so different from what I expected it to be that I actually really enjoyed it. I thought the whole idea behind them talking rather than ending with some big epic boss fight was actually really well done. And I really appreciate that was the way they went, because honestly, I enjoyed it more than I would have probably an actual robot boss fight. And I can say that I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very interesting finale, and other than the princess, who I still can't get over how frustrating she makes me feel, because first she tries to commit suicide, and then after that she demands to join Tachibana and Jingunji's party and all this other stuff. She's a weirdo and I don't like her, and I'm pretty sure she's not going with them, which I really hope she's not, because honestly I'm pretty sure she's not, and I'm glad she's not, because she is probably my least favorite character in this story. But overall, I had a very good time watching this anime. Again, I wouldn't put it as my top 10 favorite anime, nor my top 20. It would probably be there in my top 50, but I wouldn't call it something that I would definitely love without any issue for any of its problems. Again, one of the biggest playing factors is that I'm not a big fan of gender benders, although I am quite surprised that this gender bender I enjoyed. I very much enjoyed it. I'm not afraid to say I did enjoy this, although I probably won't be giving any other shows like this a chance, since, again, these types of concepts make me uncomfortable, and the only reason I watched this was because, just from watching clips, it looked really funny, so I wanted to check it out. And yeah, we're at the conclusion of this video, and one of my final thoughts? It was decently good. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it, and I definitely would recommend a simple watch if you're into the comedy type elements, where it kind of plays off Konosuba and Kasha's Hero in a way, but it's still its own thing, and I still had a very good time watching it. So that's why I'd probably have to rate Life with an Ordinary Guy Who Reincarnated into a Total Fantasy Knockout a 7 out of 10. That's what I rate it, because honestly, that is my personal thought on this anime. I am surprised how much I enjoyed it, and I don't regret sitting down and watching it, and I'm glad I did, because it was a lot of fun. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I always welcome new anime fans to the channel. And I try to upload these anime reviews weekly, so I always welcome new people and enjoy them. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all around. Peace!